Sometimes when I film videos in the early morning like this and I hear the local wildlife being so loud, I always have to remind myself it's not going to be that loud on camera. It sounds ear-piercing to me, but forget about it. Let them do their thing. Maybe they're the haters. We'll just ignore them. We'll just let them, ignore them. The show goes on. Oftentimes when I have a lot of thoughts on my mind, I'll have different ways of kind of getting them out, kind of clearing my mind. Sometimes what it might be is it's through making a video, sharing them with you. Sometimes it's just talking them out with, people who I love and care. Sometimes I'll write them down. Sometimes I'll just listen to music, get them out that way. Recently, I've been doing a lot of thinking on one particular subject, and it's been getting at me, admittedly. It's been getting at me, and I thought, I'm going to make this video. I'm going to share kind of what's been going on in my mind with all of you, and who knows. Self-reflection. It's one of those things I sometimes, to myself, I'll say, could be your own best friend or your own worst enemy. When we kind of look at the past, right? We kind of think back to how we were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? When we were always younger and stupider, right? And sometimes you look back upon yourself. Look back upon your life. Look back upon the choices you made, the decisions you made, for better or for worse. Sometimes you'll think about them, think about the implications of them. Sometimes maybe you'll be looking at them wistfully. Sometimes you'll think, I wish I could relive those moments. But I think a lot of us, at least myself included, we end up looking at them disdainfully. I end up looking at it and I end up saying to myself, you know what? In some ways I was such an idiot. In some ways I was such a stupid idiot. And I wish I could go back and fix it. I wish I said, I wish I didn't do this. I wish I didn't do that. I wish overall I was just a better person. I think a lot of us have those thoughts. And the worst part about it is, of course, and this is why I sometimes say it could be your own worst enemy, we can have these thoughts. I've been kind of plagued every single night with them as of late. And what can you do about them? You could improve yourself as a person now as a result of those thoughts. And that's great and wonderful. But you can't go back in time. You can't travel back in time. You can't correct what you did. And there's a saying that goes, the past is unchangeable, though at least you still have the future ahead of you. It's a very important saying, but it's true. The choices we've made are the choices we've made. The things we've said are the things we've said. And the decisions we've carried out are the decisions we've carried out, whether that be yesterday or years ago. And some of those choices, in retrospect, I look back upon, the way I thought, some of the things I said, the way I acted. And I look upon that with disdain and regret and sorrow. And oftentimes I feel so sorry about all of that, and I feel really bad. And sometimes that comes down to self-hatred. Sometimes I come down and I say, I hate myself, It comes out through frustration. And this morning I was going through another one of those periods. I was kind of thinking about the past, thinking about how I was when I was younger, right? And that led to a train of thought, and that led to me getting in front of the camera this morning when the lighting got a little better. The mistakes that I made in the past are pretty simple, but something I wanted to share with you, and something I really wanted to turn this video into. Gotta make sure the vest is in order. There was a time, around between 2013, I'd say, and mid-2014, even 2012 you can say, 2012 to 2014 to make it easy. I was going through a rough time, admittedly. I suffered, still do, with depression, a lot of issues, and Back then, especially when I was starting out with the YouTube channel, it was starting to first get out there, starting to first get to an audience. I didn't really know how to handle a lot of, the hateful remarks and criticism and, the trolls and haters, and you could just call them attackers. And I didn't know how to handle them. I remember sitting there, taking it all personally. I remember being so devastated when people would call me this or call me that, and the other thing, now I hear it so many times, it's just another word, but at that time, no one had ever really said those things to me before, and I took it so personally. I didn't realize they were just saying that just to be mean or nasty. I took it personally. I thought they really meant what they were saying. But to cut to the chase, there were certain groups of people that watched my channel, and some of them came to my defense, And just because they backed me up does not outright mean they themselves are good people, and that they themselves therefore deserve any sort of higher standing, you could say, than anyone else just because they gave me some form of support. Doesn't mean that their views are acceptable or something one would condone or even support in any way, shape, or form. But at the time, at least some of their attitudes, I felt, because I really didn't have any other support network to turn to at the time, I felt that some of their views were acceptable, that some of their behaviors were acceptable. This especially goes down in terms of aggressiveness. I tried to be a much more aggressive person, to try to be much more of a pumped up person, much more assertive individual. That's not the person that I really am. I realize that now, but I didn't realize it back then. I was trying to be someone that I just wasn't I was trying to be someone that I wasn't. I was trying to essentially put on a facade, because I felt that because these certain communities accepted me, and because they gave me some form of support, I felt that, well, because they supported me, I should be more like them now. But that's not true. Don't change who you are just because someone said this or said that on your behalf and gave you a little boost. I always try to retain your individuality. Be the person that you truly are. And I made that mistake. I tried to be someone that I wasn't. And I realized that after a while. I realized that after a few years. But it took a lot of time. It took trial, error, mistakes, and then, of course, the obvious realization thereof. But it took time. And now I look back upon it, and sometimes I'll oftentimes very regretfully say to myself, I wish I never tried to be someone that I wasn't. I wish I never tried to be this person, or be that person, or act this way or act that way, because I thought that that's what I was supposed to do. And that's how I felt pressured to be, because I felt as though I were owing these people some sort of favor, just because they essentially defended me and my channel, etc. No. I realize that's complete, utter nonsense. I didn't back then, and that's why I end up keep kicking myself for it over and over and over. Every single day it's been now. And it's something I wanted to share with you, though, to get it off my chest and to share something with you. Now, with everything comes its exceptions, right? But don't let other people pressure you to be someone that you aren't. And don't let certain groups or cliques or associations or websites try and make you think a certain way. Be yourself. Think for yourself. And make those decisions yourself. Not because you're trying to be something that you aren't, or you feel committed to be a person that you aren't. Because it's a facade. It's an act. It's something that I tried to do for several years, and it didn't work out. I realized that. I realized, you know what, I'm just not that person that I was trying to be. Inside, that whole time, I knew that. But I still tried to suppress those feelings and tried to be tougher, tried to be more aggressive tried to be more of a, just an overall a-hole as a person, quite frankly. And to some, those traits are admirable. To others, not so much. But to me, inside, that's just not the person that I was, nor am, nor will ever be. But as I said, with everything comes its exceptions. What I just said there doesn't mean that, oh, wow, now he's saying I can be a homicidal maniac because that's what I wanted to be. That's good. No, absolutely not. But be yourself. As long as it's not hurting other people, harming other people, suppressing others, you can have your own opinions. But I don't believe in hate. I don't believe in hatred. It's something that I've been talking about recently in a lot of videos also, because it's something I feel strong about. I feel if we all treated each other with respect and dignity and kindness, perhaps the solutions to a lot of our problems that we face, hey, they might just come about, right? But that's what I believe in, at least. I know everyone has different views, and they're entitled to those views. But I just feel, be yourself. Don't harm others. Don't hurt others. Don't abuse others. Respect others. You could still have your own views and treat others with dignity and kindness. That's what I've learned, and it's what I try to employ every day through real-world interaction, through these videos, through my radio broadcasts, and any other means that I have. But be yourself. Be yourself. Don't feel pressured to be something you're not. Or don't feel indebted that you have to be something you're not. No, be yourself. Be the person that you really truly are. We could always improve as people. I know I certainly can, and it's something that I always try to do every day. We'll always be improving, but don't be afraid to be yourself. My 2 cents, dear listeners and viewers. Well, thank you for putting up with me with this little monologue, you can say. I wouldn't necessarily call it a diatribe, but just a morning monologue with the ambient wildlife throughout. Just a few thoughts I wanted to share with you. Because again, I was kind of just looking back upon my own life and, some of the mistakes I've made over the years, and one of the best sayings out there is we could learn from our mistakes. And I can tell you confidently, I surely have. We all can. We're all going to make mistakes going forward, but that doesn't mean that we can just let those mistakes drag us down over and over. Instead, we could learn from those mistakes and really use them to improve ourselves and really make us all better people, perhaps. Who's to say? Again, my 2 cents. Hope you enjoyed this video, just kind of some early morning talk and rambling, and on a final note, should mention, I got my shortwave radio out with me this morning. The good old Texan PL660. Was doing a little listening before I turned the camera on. I always think you should have a shortwave radio. That's my shtick. That's my gig. That's the thing that I always plug. But if you want to get a shortwave radio, it might not be the medium that it was decades ago, but you could still hear voices from all over the world, and programs all over the world, opinions and perspectives that can really help you formulate your own views, that you can see all sides of the spectrum and, make your own decision based on what you see and hear and through research and through the facts of things. Sometimes shortwave radio and some of the diverse programs on that medium can help one formulate those views and opinions and let them think for themselves. But if you want to get a shortwave radio, you could check the Amazon affiliate link in the description. It's a way that I kind of sorted through a lot of good models that are there for you to obtain, and you could even hear my own show on shortwave every week if you're interested. Well, that's all that I have for you. Thank you again for watching, and I'm your host, the Report of the Week.